Of the Afghan data breach as a former Defence Secretary?
Do you know, I've been sort of quizzing myself about this because, what would I have done if that leak had occurred? Well, I guess I would have instituted the sort of programme that the government did, and I think I probably would have applied for an injunction to stop information about that. But sadly, what is illustrated here is the absolute chaos of the British state, because that enormous list that was leaked, obviously they were checking it because they had no idea whether the people on that list were people they needed to save, or whether some of them were bogus, or whether some of them were distant relatives. They had no idea at all. And I then note that the reason for the injunction appeared to change as the government appeared in front of judges, from protecting the names and therefore saving lives, essentially to protecting ministers and covering up. And I think the judge said, am I going bonkers that here was billions of pounds worth of public expenditure which was being hidden from the public.
Also, when we now look at some of the stats around who else has come in, 150 family members being brought in alongside others on the list. It's unbelievable, isn't it? I mean,
it's an appalling shambles. I mean, it seems that some of the people who are on the list to begin with were already family members, and others may have been bogus claimants. And you even raised the question on your programme about whether some of them are actually terrorists. I mean, when we go into an operation in a foreign country, it is predictable that one day we're going to leave. And therefore, you'd think that we would keep decent records of the people that we value. But apparently, the decent records didn't exist, which is why we sort of opened up a scheme where people could apply. Naturally, if you say to people, here's an opportunity to leave Afghanistan and go to Britain, and all you have to do is claim to have done something for the British government, well, what's going to happen? You're going to be overwhelmed with people, and then someone's going to have to check the list, and then it all goes wrong. It is the shambles of the British state, and in particular, I'm afraid, the shambles of the department, which was once my honour to lead, the Department of Defence.
Well, yeah, what's happened there? I mean, on one hand, of course, we can blame the politicians, and I think the likes of Wallace, Shapps and Healy need to explain themselves, as they were involved both in the injunctions and the super injunctions and all the rest of it. But also civil servants. I mean, where are the department chiefs sort of taking responsibility for what's gone on? Oh,
no, well, forget that. There'll be no one taking responsibility. That's a subject for the birds, I'm afraid. But, I mean, one of the theories I have is that the Ministry of Defence is so vast. I forget now, is it 58,000 civil servants? But when you have so many people, of course, people are falling over each other to pass responsibility to each other, to pass the buck, to countermand each other's decisions. Responsibility becomes very, very diffuse. I mean, I think one of the first major reforms that could be made of the Ministry of Defence would be to cut the numbers drastically. But I'm afraid I say this on GB News more or less once a week. It is extraordinary that we spend billions and billions of pounds on defence and get almost no usable defence at the other end.
Also, isn't it problematic that, as well as the MOD, the other behemoth department that has been unruly and chaotic since the days of John Reed is the Home Office? So you've got double bungling from both the MOD in the data leak and the management of it, and then the Home Office in the management of the asylum claims, many of which appear to be bogus, actually.
It's very deeply depressing, and departments were fighting each other tooth and nail because, of course, the Home Office did not want to increase its already horrendous problems by taking on a problem which had been created by the Ministry of Defence. But the Ministry of Defence wasn't equipped to run, as it were, an immigration policy. And so the departments sort of stood off from each other, which is why so many of these people were arriving on MOD property. They were being put into servicemen's houses, so that, lots of people must have suspected what was going on, because the flights were arriving at Stansted and other places full of Afghans. Their houses were being taken over from the military to house these Afghans. We know now that the numbers were vast, that is to say, up to 22 family members accompanying the person known as the principal. Absolute shambles. I mean, a disgrace to our country. But at the heart of it, I would want to restate this, that there obviously were marvellous people who were working for the British government. We had a responsibility to them. One of the things that's quite depressing is we can't be at all sure that we've managed to save those people. What we do now believe is that we brought a lot of people over, some of whom have merit and some of whom do not.
As I suppose you're hearing, no doubt you're hearing, Michael Portillo, we're still waiting for Steve Reid, so you and I need to keep chatting, which is always a pleasure, frankly. In fact, you may be more interesting than Steve Reid, we don't know.